Hello, and welcome to my channel, Divine Disclosures. My name is Alicia, and today I'm going to be talking about bullies. God wants me to hit on this subject so that people can be informed on how a bully becomes a bully and what types of sins they have to come into agreement with in order to be this type of person. And it's important to understand those types of sins because that is how you get set free from this deception, this mindset that these people have. Basically, we're going to get right into it, and hopefully this won't be a super long message. But let's start out with the playground. Let's just say you're a child on the playground, and for some reason, somebody singles you out and decides you're going to be their target, okay? They come up to you, they call you names, they mock you, they make fun of something you're wearing, your hair, your features. Maybe then other people come along and start laughing too and watching what's going on, because a lot of the time there is an audience, okay? And I call these bystanders because they're not usually people who are coming in to rescue, they're coming in to join in, okay? So imagine you're this child. You're feeling rejection. You're feeling humiliation, shame, right? You're feeling abandoned and worthless, okay? There's so many things that you would be feeling in this situation. You feel violated. Sometimes bullies are physically violent. So your actual body could be violated as well. And this is a traumatic moment for anyone to experience. And I don't know if you guys had the same experiences that I did when I was younger, but a lot of the time, these people didn't get justice. Okay, even, if the teachers found out, the principal found out, the parents get involved, I really feel like there really wasn't a lot of justice. It's like, okay, well, that happens, get over it, deal with it, even though this is a huge trauma, okay? Now, a couple months ago, I went to go watch a movie from my childhood, and it was a cartoon, and one of the characters, the villain, he literally said, I'm the villain now because somebody did this to me when I was little. Like, it was just one incident, okay? And God was revealing to me that that's all it takes. That's all it takes is one incident for someone to be traumatized, change everything about themselves, and then decide whether, they get stronger and they grow and learn from the experience, or they turn into a bully. Okay. And we're going to be talking about, that person who was bullied and then they turned into a bully, which, sometimes the first bullying experience is not on the playground. It could be in your home, could be from brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins. Like, it could be a different situation. So it doesn't really matter where it came from. Certain people decide they are going to become the bully. And this is a very attractive idea to them, because when you're the one being bullied, you feel powerless. You feel like there's nothing you can do to stop this. And obviously there was nobody around usually to stop it either. And so you feel that this was unfair. You have this strong feeling that the world is unfair and there's no justice. And that makes you want to take things into your own hands, okay? And if you're spiritually aware and you know about, the different spirits and the different sins, control is like a spirit of witchcraft, okay? If somebody's been hurt a lot, they do want to take control of situations so that they can prevent getting hurt again, because that pain was so intense. It was unbearable, and it when it's certain level of trauma, it splits the mind. Okay. And so some of these people, their mind was split and they decide they have to make a decision in that moment. And a lot of the times the demons are there ready to jump in on that person and tell the person what to think, what to feel, and what to do from that point on to protect themselves. It's a very rare occasion where somebody's spiritually mature and wise and knowledgeable and knows exactly what to do. And so that's one of the reasons why God wants me to put this message out, so that you can understand just a little bit about the spiritual aspect of this. So anyways, the demons, tell the child, basically they will try to get the child not to forgive their oppressor. Okay. That's number one. They don't want forgiveness happening. They want the child to think that the whole world's against you and everybody's evil because, let's just be honest, in those types of situations, most of the people are evil because they're joining in on it and they're watching it and they're not doing anything. There's two different kinds. There's the people who are enjoying it because they too have the sadistic type of spirit that the bully has, right? But there's also cowards. They're just too fearful. They don't want to get involved because they don't want to get hurt. And as we know, being a hero is self-sacrifice. It's a sacrificial act to stand up and put yourself in danger to help another person. Okay, but that's what Jesus teaches us to do. I'm not saying that every single situation we're called to come in and intervene, but a lot of the time, God has us doing the right thing, in a situation and being that person that stands up and does what nobody else will do. I don't know why, but for some reason, I always felt like that person. I always felt like I was strong enough to stand up to injustice, I guess you could say. So, anyways, back to the victim. The ones that become a bully, they have to make these declarations and decisions in their mind. First is unforgiveness, like I said, taking control. They start, trying to control everything now. And then there's vengeance. They have to come into agreement with vengeance. The Bible says that God will take vengeance. Okay, vengeance is his. He will repay. But the demons will convince the child that, they can do this. And if they're too afraid of the bully, they will do this to the people around them so that bullying never happens again. So that people will think they're strong and they're tough. And, it's like a defensive mechanism. And so they really do try to hurt other people just so they can protect themselves. So then they generally will learn from other mean people how to be mean. Okay, they learn how to mock. They'll go years and years reciting in their head smart comebacks, right? Sarcastic remarks, nasty humor, mockery. They will learn how to mock people, which is a whole nother spirit. And they learn all these techniques, to kind of push people away, number one, because they don't ever want to be that victim again. But then, like I said, that sadistic spirit comes in that the bullies have, and they like it. They get to a point where they like this. This is fun. This is enjoyable. This is pleasurable. And as we know, the devil makes sin pleasurable, so that he can cause man to fall and hurt other human beings and, ultimately drag people's souls to hell. It's a big battle between him and God. He wants to hurt God's creation. He wants to see them fall. He wants them to be destroyed. And so you'll find people like this in your life. And for me, I feel like when I see somebody who's an adult bully, it's very strange to me, because it's like you're taking something that you learned about in childhood. And if you had good parents, they taught you right and wrong, and they taught you, a little bit about the mentality of the bully and how, they're hurting, and, maybe they just need a friend, to be honest. But some families, they didn't have this knowledge. They didn't know what to tell their child. And so the child got traumatized even more because they didn't have the support from their family. They didn't know how to properly deal with the situation. So it varies from person to person. With the adult bullies, it's like they're not mature yet. They're stuck. They're stuck in their trauma, is what the Lord was revealing to me. They're stuck in that moment of pain, and their whole personality has been developed, like I said, to be in control and to ensure that they never feel those feelings of shame again. And one thing he pointed out to me was anything that triggers their shame. It could be anything, right? They're going to go off. Okay, they're going to start doing what they've taught themselves to do, to protect themselves, to hurt everybody around them so that they don't get hurt again. And this is something that, they have to pray about and ask God to reveal, their wounds, their open wounds. And then they need to go to God, and they have to confess that they did not forgive that person, that they chose to become evil to defeat evil, okay? And in the Bible, it talks about how we're to, turn the other cheek, which there's many different theories on what exactly that means. But what I understand is you don't try to retaliate, basically, okay? That doesn't mean you have to stand there and you have to let them do it to you necessarily. It just means you don't retaliate, okay? You don't seek vengeance. Now, so first, yeah, the person who is a bully, they would have to come out of unforgiveness, number one, because that's a huge door opener that brings in other spirits of different sins. And it ensures that the wound never heals, okay? It's a supernatural thing. It's something you can't see. It's like the wind. You can't see the wind, but you can feel it, and it does massive damage. It moves things around, right? It's a very powerful force. And so when you forgive your oppressor, it's like a key turning in a door. It turns and it opens the door so that something can be unleashed, something can be brought into your life. And that is, like I said before, healing. Without healing, you go around very sensitive, okay? It's also like somebody who picks their scab open. Let's just say you did kind of heal, right? But then you reminisce. The enemy does this. He'll get you to relive and re-experience the feelings of that trauma again, so that you can maybe make another decision and get back into unforgiveness, get back into bitterness and resentment and anger and rage and hatred and like whatever you came into agreement with. Or even if you didn't do it initially, he'll try to get you to do it another time in your life. He's always trying to open doors in your life. He's always trying to get a foothold to destroy you and destroy other people. Because once he can get you to agree to his demonic ways, you're not operating in love. You're not operating the way that God made you to operate. And that means you're not walking in freedom, and you're not walking in peace and joy. And that's how the Lord wants us. He wants us to be at peace. He wants us to be joyful. He wants us to enjoy our lives. And yes, bad things do happen, and we will experience pain. But I know that when you're walking in righteousness, you have a level of protection that unbelievers and even believers who are continuously sinning don't have. Okay? So you're actually protected from a whole lot of stuff that you don't need to feel, that you don't have to go through. So there's always an advantage to doing the right thing and being out of sin. Like we think the devil says, do this and this and this and this to protect yourself, but it's it might protect you from certain things, but you're opening up the door to a whole lot of other things that you may not even think are related. You may not even realize that these other things happening in your life is because you fell in this area. You came into agreement with this sin, right? And so it's very important to get set free from any wrong mindsets, any lies that we've believed from the enemy, that have caused us to like want to self-protect and push people away by being mean to them. I know that I had tactics as a child of pushing people away. I guess it would be more so when I was a teenager and young adult. I would push people away just through different behaviors that I would do. Not like trying to be mean to people, but kind of like, I don't know, maybe disregarding them. Just not opening myself up to people. Because I had these beliefs that, nobody was sincere, nobody actually cared, because I had a lot of that in my life. And so there's different ways that the enemy can get to you. But yeah, so basically you got to come out of unforgiveness. Vengeance, you have to come out of agreement with vengeance. You're not allowed to fight back against them in that way. You can fight back in prayer. You can pray for their soul. You can pray for the Lord, may the Lord rebuke you, basically, meaning the Lord will bring correction to that person. He will teach them how that behavior is wrong, and so they can feel in their heart that this isn't something they're supposed to be doing. Now, everybody has the gift of free will. They can choose whether they want to commit sin or not, but that's basically what you do when you leave it in God's hands. You're like, may the Lord correct that person. And that's really all you can do. You can pray for them. You can fast for a person if you feel called. I know fasting is very powerful to have an effect on people's lives, because you're sacrificing something. And a sacrifice means a lot in the spiritual realm. So that's definitely an option. But the main point is to not come into agreement with whatever the enemy is telling you, to fight back, to, protect yourself in ways that aren't necessarily godly. Like you can take a different route home, for example. That's a way of protecting yourself from a bully that might be following you, right? But you don't need to like set booby traps and, start smear campaigns and gossiping and slandering and all of that, okay? Another thing that he was pointing out to me is that bullies antagonize. They try to get people to react so that they feel justified in hurting them, okay? Because once they come into agreement with that, and they've done it a couple of times, they now have a sadistic spirit, and they don't want to seem like a bad guy to everyone. They want to feel justified in what they're doing. So like I said, they will antagonize, they will call names, they will poke fun, they will do all these things to try to get a person to react so that they can get their fix, okay? And I'll give you an example. There was this man that I dated many years ago. He was very neglected and very abused as a child. And one day he decided to drink alcohol to soothe himself. And from that point on, he had very powerful spirits of alcoholism that followed him. He wasn't always involved with it when I was involved with him, but he would lapse and it would be really horrible. He'd go days and days binge drinking, and it was because he chose a sin to deal with the trauma that he was going through. And then after that, he stood up to his oppressor, which was, I believe, his stepfather. And I believe he took a chair and he like threw it at this man and attacked the man who was his oppressor. And from that moment on, that a demon came into him, I believe. And he became violent. He became a very violent person, and he became a bully. I remember I would speak to him and he would talk, like, we would talk for hours and hours. And it was, he would talk about going to the bars or walking up and down the streets, and like he would do things to antagonize people. One of the things he would do was sit in a bar and just look at other men, just stare them down, because he wanted them to get angry. He wanted them to get up and do something so he would feel like he's defending himself, right? It's like I said before, they're always living in that past moment or moments for some people. Always wanting to like win this battle because it's like a battle against them and the original bullies. Okay? And so they're wanting to fight anybody and everybody in the whole world to feel like they've won finally, to feel like they're free from that they're on top for once, right? Because they felt so useless and weak and pathetic and ashamed, powerless, right? And so this is what they do the rest of their life. They the way they speak to people is to try to get them to react so that they can then be mean to them. Like they get high off of this because they have the demons now. And so that is something that, they have to repent of. They have to get rid of that. They have to come out of agreement with it's okay to take vengeance on people. It's okay to abuse people. It's okay to mock them. It's okay to hurt them in any way at all. The Bible teaches us that we're supposed to be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves. And that is not a mirror image of a bully, okay? And so you have to realize everything that they are about is against God. It's all from the devil. Now back to the story about the guy. So yeah, he would provoke people in the bar, and then he would get to fight with them. Now, on the side, for years and years, he would practice martial arts. He would learn different types of martial arts so that he could be the one who's stronger, who's smarter, and he would study the psychology behind fighting, so that he could have the upper hand and be the best fighter that he could possibly be. And like I said, he would go out on the streets too and just try to start fights with people so that he could practice his skills, so that he could see how powerful he was. And he had so many demons with him that were like encouraging this and making him feel great whenever, this would happen. And he would come home and call me and tell me about, the fights that he would get into. And so, I tried ministering to this guy and learning about what was going on with him, and doing deliverance and whatnot. But ultimately, in the end, he didn't want healing. He didn't want to grow. He didn't want to submit to Christ. He was hurting too much, and the Lord revealed to me years later there was a lot of witchcraft going on that I wasn't fully aware of at the time that I was with him. And so that's actually when the Lord started teaching me about narcissism. Like when he was telling me to let that person go after like 3 years of off and on relationship, he started teaching me about narcissism. And it all made sense. Like it all made sense why this man would act this way. I believe the Lord, I had this book, and it was called, I think it was called The Child Called It. And I read that, and the Lord was ministering to me through that book. And this was like at the very end of our relationship. And I was like telling the guy that I was reading this book, and then he would talk about his childhood trauma some more, because he was very open about it. But like God was teaching me how to help those people and how to pray for them and how to understand why they are the way they are. But that's what causes that. It's severe trauma, severe rejection and abandonment, and bullying that happens to these people, and they just want to ensure that they don't get hurt again. But this is the devil's way, right? This is why they became the bully, this sadistic, abusive, narcissistic person, because they don't want to be hurt anymore. They have this wall up, these guards up, this armor, I should say. And like I said, it's kind of like a fear thing. They want people to fear them so that they don't get messed with again. Okay? And like I said, the Lord is emphasizing adult bullies because I've had to deal with certain adults in the past couple of years that it really shocked me when I found out they had this in them, that they have no problem abusing women and children, especially because one of the things he pointed out to me was bullies don't necessarily take vengeance on their bully because they're too scared. They know that that person is more experienced in that and they're bigger than them, stronger than them, whatever the case may be, right? They take it out on other people. So anytime they get triggered throughout life, they're going to be abusing people around them. So it's not just, bullying somebody in the workplace or just randomly. It's like they take this to anybody and everybody, and there's no limit to it. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. If they feel like they're not going to get caught and nobody's watching them, they'll bully anybody because it's like there's a demon in there that won't stop. There's a demon in there that keeps pushing that wound like a button, push, push, push. Feel the pain, feel the pain, feel the anger, feel the hopelessness, the worthlessness, the shame. Like, feel the anger, and then they'll start hurting everybody around them because it's like they're still fighting that war in their head of that moment. And like I said, the first thing that these people have to do, they have to forgive. They got to let it go. They got to forgive every single person that's hurt them. And a lot of the time throughout life, because they have this shame wound that's so easily triggered by anybody, that's like looking at them funny or not giving them the time of the day that they think they should get or not speaking to them in a respectful way. Like they kind of put themselves on this God, this platform like a God. They feel like people should treat them a certain way and be a certain way around them. And if they're not like that, it's like another wound. It's like that person hurt me. That person did something against me, and they'll vilify that person when that person is let's be honest, God revealed this to me too. That person's probably sensing all the demons, okay? They're sensing the evil, the wickedness in that person, because a lot of these people, they have a front. They'll act super professional, super mature, very loving in the beginning of relationships. They've got this charm. They have this persona, this mask that they wear, and they deceive a lot of people. But there's certain people that are very sensitive to the demons that are still lurking around, even though they've got a smile. They're dressed nicely. They know what to say. They can feel the demons. They can sense them. Okay, and so I know this happens with the demons of rejection too. Like, there'll be spirits there that are getting people around you to reject you. And they're getting you to think in a certain way that you're putting off a certain energy that pushes people away. And so they go throughout life thinking that everybody's an enemy, when in reality it's the spirits that are latched onto them, causing these things to happen repeatedly, causing people to be like, I don't really want to be around this person. So it doesn't matter how much they fake it. Certain people can feel that energy. They can see, there's other people that can see right through everything. They can see that they're wounded. They can see why they're doing what they're doing because they're educated in that area. So it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. I learned about this when I was a young teenager. I had a therapist that taught me about self-fulfilling prophecies, where you act in a certain way and you believe in a certain way that literally allows it to come to pass in your life. Some people use the word manifesting, but it's just a spiritual thing. These spirits will make it happen, and if you believe something, it can come to pass, right? As a man thinks, so is he. This is a teaching out of the Bible. And so it's very important to identify the lies that the enemy has told us and counteract them with the truth. You know, that it's not okay to take vengeance. It's not okay to not forgive. It's not okay to hold a grudge. Okay, these people, they hold a grudge. They won't let it go. They just keep on, keep on, keep on, with the anger. That spirit of anger is like a high to them. It's like a drug. You know, if they think about what happened and they get angry, they feel powerful. That's another thing that drives these people, that spirit of anger, which I put a message about anger a while back. I put a message out about that, and it's talking about how, you know, people would rather feel anger because it's at a higher frequency than shame. Okay, you feel a lot better in the state of anger than you do if you feel shame, because shame's like at the bottom of the scale. And so these people will opt for that feeling. They will get high just reminiscing on that and just getting angry about it because they feel powerful. That anger makes them feel powerful. And so that's another demon they got to get rid of. They got to renounce that and come out of agreement with it. The Lord actually was teaching me more about anger in the past couple of years than I ever knew. Because when I was in relationships years ago, I would always do the whole don't go to bed angry, right? And so if there was any issue, we had to resolve it and, you know, return to a state of peace and love. But later on, he was showing me that I was being attacked spiritually because of anger. And it could have been something stupid. It could have been I saw something on TV or some news article or whatever. And apparently, if you don't resolve that, whatever it is, you can't let the sun go down on your anger. It doesn't matter what kind it is. It doesn't matter if it's involving another person or an argument you had. You just can't let anger sit there. Because what does it say? That it gives the devil a foothold. Okay? And so that was new to me. I'd never heard anybody in my life take it that far and explain it that way. That you literally really need to let go of any type of anger. You need to figure out why it's there. Counteract it with something good. Just let it go, right? You need to get your peace. You know, when it talks about how the enemy tries to steal your peace and your joy, that's how he does it. He tries to make you angry. And because these people, these bullies, are filled with these demons that try to provoke you and antagonize you to get you to anger so you can act out, they also use offense. You know, they're spirits of offense. That's a way the devil works through these individuals to steal your peace, to steal your joy, is by provoking you and antagonizing you. That's why the best thing you can do is just, you know, understand that these are wounded individuals and they just need love. You just smile and you just carry on. You know, don't even defend yourself. Don't worry about it. Just pray for them and move on. And don't let the devil steal your peace. Don't let him steal that joy, because that's your power. So, I think that's all for this message. I don't know that he wants me to say anything else about this. But there's a lot of pieces of information that I know a lot of people don't know about. So just take this message to the Lord, pray about it, and you'll probably notice in your own life, in your own mind, and people around you, that this is kind of how a lot of people operate. And if you want to know how to pray for those individuals so that they can get set free, just remember these concepts. Remember these sins that need to be identified and exposed, the lies that they need to come out of agreement with. And if you notice that you're doing this in your life, because we all do something on some level. It may not be full-blown, you know, I'm a bully to everybody in the whole world, but I might have a trait or something there, you know, and we always need to self-reflect and figure out, what do I need to get rid of? You know, do I have any of these self-protective things? Do I try to control things? You know, this Jezebel witchcraft spirit. Like, what do you have that you need to seek out with the Lord, that you need healing for, that you need deliverance from? And he'll help you. He'll help you get set free. And if you are a person who, you know, sides with the whole bullying thing, you're going to find relief. You're going to find freedom. You're going to find healing so that those wounds don't hurt as much anymore. You can get rid of that shame. You can get rid of that feeling of worthlessness, that you're not good enough, that you don't measure up to your peers. And it's really going to set you free and give you a life that you can actually enjoy. You don't have to feel like you're always fighting a battle. Sometimes it's good to just let God fight our battles. I know there's a verse that talks about how God goes before us and he fights our battles. And you got to let the Lord do that for you sometimes. Sometimes he'll equip us with how to fight our battles, but sometimes you just got to let it go and let God take care of it. So anyways, I hope this blessed you guys. Take it to the Lord, pray about it, and I hope you have a wonderfully blessed day.